After events at Sonoma Raceway and Circuit of the Americas to start the season, the third stop for GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is right here at the world-famous Sebring International Raceway. Hello and welcome to sunny Central Florida. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and it's Amanda Busick for us today. Down in the pit lane as we get going, qualifying for the first of two races here this weekend. Of course, qualifying for race 2 comes up immediately after this first 15-minute session. It's already hot, it's plenty humid. That's been the story all week long. These conditions challenging the teams, challenging the cars, and challenging the drivers. Air conditioning in some of these cars, Cal, and whether or not you have it, that's been a big talking point anytime we bumped into a driver here this week.
Yeah, I think finding comfort in the cockpit and comfort on this racetrack will certainly be the key to success here this weekend. Blistering hot, as you said, mid-90s, a real feel around 100 here yesterday. It's a little bit cooler this morning, but that's all relative, of course. But this is probably the best these race cars are going to feel all weekend long, with fresh Pirelli P0s on the race cars, relatively low fuel loads on board, and everyone just trying to generate a little bit of tire temperature. It's not going to take much in this heat. And talking to some of the drivers here yesterday, they said the peak of the tires is only good for about 3 to 4 laps. I think you've got to get it done early in this session today.
There was testing earlier in the week, a couple of official practice sessions yesterday. Practice number 1 was topped by the Pro-Am entry. The DXTT Racing Corvette Matt Bell was able to eclipse the 2-minute mark at a 1:59.757. No one was able to do that in practice 2 in the heat of the day. That session was led by Robbie Foley in the Turner BMW. BMW has looked strong across all of the practice sessions so far, but we've seen Corvette come to the front. We've seen Mercedes flex some muscle as well. And then there's the question, have they even shown us what they really have at their disposal? I think there's reason to believe that we'll really get a good sense of it right now, starting here in qualifying.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that Corvette does look very good here. They've got a ton of testing miles with that new car over the last couple of years in terms of the manufacturer, and Corvette Racing have obviously been a regular entrant here at the Sebring 12 hours, so they've got a big notebook to work from. I mean, Matt Bull laid down that lap, the only sub 2-minute lap yesterday. His teammate Blake McDonald blistered a lap here this morning in GT America qualifying session as well, so I think they're the favorites going in, but as you said, you never know what anyone else has up their sleeves. The BMWs are typically very strong in qualifying. Interesting to see all 3 of those cars there running line astern with the 2 random Vandals machines leading Justin Rothberg with the Turner Motorsports as they went out for quali.
A few tweaks to the entry list since the last time out at Circuit of the Americas. A few of the cars that aren't contesting the full season did not make the trip down here to Sebring, but we're left with 15 really strong entries. One major change is part of the driving lineup for the Dollarhide Racing entry, the Ford Mustang, with Scott Dollarhide behind the wheel here for the first qualifying session. But they've drafted in Stefano Gattuso, fresh off of a podium run in the World Endurance Championship at Spa just 1 weekend ago, finished runner-up in the LMGT3 class. This team wanted another bronze-graded driver to fit the AM lineup that has Mustang experience, and Stefano brings that to the table.
Yeah, he does, and I think that's going to be a great asset for this team as they continue to learn and develop this relatively new Mustang GT3. It debuted in competition last year, of course, with the Multimatic organization who builds these race cars, but I think it'll be good for them to have someone with a bit more seat time running with the Proton team, who always seems to develop good, strong setups. They have a good engineering force there with Proton on the global level, so maybe you can bring a few ingredients to the mix here this weekend and step them up a little bit.
First times popping up on timing and scoring. Still a ways off of the ultimate pace we expect to see, but everyone building up to temperature and pressure as quickly as they can. This is a challenging track here, Calvin, especially in the heat. 17 turns, of course, just under 4 miles in length at about 3 3/4 miles. But that said, it's really about the bumps here. That's really where the challenge comes into play.
It really is, and you know, I feel that a couple of the most demanding corners in North American motorsports are right here at Sebring. One is turn 1 and one is turn 17. Turn 1, extremely high speed entry there. It's blind all the way through the apex. Then you suddenly burst out and see the exit, and you hope you got the car pointed in the right direction. It's extremely bumpy there, and turn 17 is just a wild ride to get through there. But lovely rhythm through this sector. This is Tower Corner. This is turn 13. You can see they're trying to use every inch of that exit curbing. There's a little added concrete there, as you can see, that's been placed to alleviate what typically turns into a big pothole there at the end of that exit curb.
This is shaping up to be a really strong lap from Kenton Cook here at one of the 2 BMWs from Random Vandals Racing. The team expanding to 2 cars here this year after running a single car in the back half of the 2024 season a year ago. They've had good pace, Calvin. They've had some good results, but also I think they've been left scratching their heads from time to time as the strategy of the races and some misfortune has struck as well that maybe has deprived them of the ultimate results that they might have been capable of.
Yeah, I think they've had a really solid start. We obviously saw them debut with GT3 competition middle of last year, so it was great to get their toe in the water. They immediately had pace, running right at the sharp end. I think they had a pole at Barber, as I recall. So, you know, they've got a really good engineering force there. It's really just coming down to executing these races a little bit clean. They've had a couple of wins. They're very much in the championship hunt. They had the unfortunate moment in race 2 at Circuit of the Americas where Connor De Filippi made a little bit of an aggressive move and got into his teammate, which hurt both of their days, but they recovered, got the car back out there, most importantly, got to the 50% mark and scored points. Otherwise, that could have been a complete disaster. But, you know, they realize that this championship, even though there's only 4 cars running in pro on a regular basis, they're very quick cars, and they've got to really get dialed in if they think they're going to claim this championship, because there's some other teams like the Mercedes group with Grenier and Mackay Stevens. They're just doing such a great job there with their debut season with the Mercedes.
And they are indeed, and don't sleep on RS1 as well. Alex Sedgwick and Jan Halen confirmed for the full season here ahead of this event. They had been trying to piece everything together to make that possible, and happy to say that it looks like that is the case. And that's in that pro class, which is light on numbers, but really, really strong, very competitive, as we've seen across the first 4 races of the season. Speaking of Mackay Stevens, he's putting together a really strong lap here. Philip Ellis, who we were watching a moment ago, is as well. 2 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evos, but in different classes. Here comes Stevens, who has purple Sector 1, purple Sector 2 in the pro class. Here he comes across the line, and he dips down to a 2-minute .189 second lap. That puts him on provisional pole, about 0.2 of a second ahead of Kenton Cook. Now Philip Ellis, who needs to make hay here. This is that alternate strategy we talk about in the Pro-Am class that has netted a couple of wins already this season for Regulator Racing. In race 1, it's contingent on Philip Ellis starting out front, building a gap, and he just put in a lap that's right now good enough for the outside of the front row overall, as Kenton Cook does blitz below the 2-minute mark.
Yeah, first driver to dip below that 2-minute barrier. We only saw Matt Bell do it in practice here this weekend. Now it's Kenton Cook who has the fastest time. Ellis had a really strong 3rd sector. He's actually a little bit down on Mackay Stevens in the middle sector, even though they're not competing in the same class here this weekend. Philip Ellis in Pro-Am with Jeff Burton. They've had a couple of wins and really tightened the points chase up on Robbie Foley and Justin Rothberg, who lead in Pro-Am currently.
Ellis and that Regulator Racing car, one of 4 that took their time getting out onto the track, so they're a little bit behind in terms of that progression, building up the pace here in this session. This BMW, Kenton Cook, one of the first to get out on track, so they've already put in a couple of flyers, while Ellis has only done the 1.
Curious to see, there's no tire warmers this year, and what we've seen a strategy from the Regulator Racing team with Philip Ellis is he'll qualify and then keep those tires on for Jeff Burton, so he's got some tire temperatures to deal with. But with the extreme heat here this weekend, I'll be curious to see if they actually throw a new set of stickers at Jeff Burton for the second qualifying segment here this morning.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that, definitely. That has paid dividends for them. Jeff Burton had an overall front row start, if you recall, in race 2 at Sonoma by virtue of getting out on those warm tires on a cool day, setting a fast lap early, and then when the rest of the session was interrupted by a red flag, they were right there with an early fast lap time. Let's watch Mackay Stevens. This is shaping up to be an excellent lap. He gave up some time, though, in the final sector, and that costs him. Ends up not improving, and will have to settle, at least for now, for 3rd. In the meantime, Philip Ellis has his eyes on the overall pole position, which would be a huge boon to them and their strategy. Here he comes to the timing line, and indeed, Ellis goes to the top, a 1:59.839.
Yeah, it's tight. It's about tenth and a half over Kenton Cook, but to your point, he really wants to get that pole position so he can control the front end of this race. He doesn't even want to battle out of class cars like the pro entries. He just wants to get out, try and escape and build as big a margin and cushion as he can for his teammate to take over the second phase of the race.
If anyone will knock him off of his perch, it will not be Kenton Cook. They've already made their way into the pit lane, and so Kenton appears to be content to start on class pole on the outside of the front row, knowing this car will, in all likelihood, come back to them in the second half of the race.
Sedgwick's on a really good lap here. 2 personal bests through Sector 1, Sector 2. Needs to find about 0.3 of a second to move up the grid and leapfrog ahead of Mackay Stevens. So this third sector is going to be super important. Well, he's pretty clean there through 16 onto the Elman Straight. Big long straightaway, then you just suddenly ease over to the right-hand side, almost clip that concrete wall on the right-hand side, and this is the really important part, is just getting that car settled down under the bridge. Car looks to be pretty good through there, riding the bumps nicely, actually.
Does a great job, gets back to power, to the line. What can Sedgwick do? Good enough for third, displacing Mackay Stevens by 4/100ths of a second. And would move that car to the inside of the second row, and to my eye at least, it looks like Sedgwick is still on a push lap.
Yeah, it is, and I spoke to his teammate Jan Halen this weekend, and he was pretty positive about the fact they've got a new engineer embedded in the team this weekend, someone they're not familiar with, but seemed like he got his head around this race car pretty quickly, and they said, well, wait and see, but so far so good. This was yesterday morning when I was talking to him, and it looked like they made some nice progress, and fighting out here. He needs to find a couple of tenths to get that car onto the front row and maybe the pro pole. As we know, Kenton Cook is already on pit lane. He's probably unlikely to come back out again, so it's all down to Sedgwick here, see what he can do.
A week ago, Sedgwick was competing in NLS on the Nürburgring Nordschleife and secured his A permit for the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which opens up the opportunity to compete in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, part of Intercontinental GT Challenge once again this year. Exciting news for him and also Henry Drury, as they both represent PT Autosport. This has been a really good qualifying session for this car. Scott Dolehite right in the middle of the pack overall, 8th fastest M-class entry, the only one in the field, so that's a default pole position, but this is the closest to the front of the field this car has been to this point in the season.
Oh, this would be huge for this team. I mean, that is really solid if they can hang on to that, but time is running out here with just over a minute to go, so this is a really good precursor, and we also know that his teammate who's going to do the second session here has got a lot of experience in this race. I'll be curious to see what he can perform like in that second quali coming up.
It'll be tougher for Stefano because he'll be up against most of the pros in the Pro-Am lineups, whereas most Pro-Am cars are putting their bronze-graded driver in the car for qualifying one. The exception to that, of course, is Philip Ellis, which is why we talk about that being an alternate strategy.
Kai Stevens here is staying out. This lap doesn't look good. I'm not sure if he's just going to bail on this and bring it back to pit lane. He's got enough time to get back to the stripe and start a last lap fly. Let's see what he does. No, he's out of it.
He'll have to settle for the 4th overall starting position, 3rd in class, just ahead of Bill Oberlin in the second Random Vandals BMW. That's about a second off the pace of the overall pole sitter and just under a second off the pace of the sister car. Gives you an idea of just how well Kenton Cook is driving these days when he can edge out an experienced pro, the likes of Bill Oberlin.
Well, Kenton certainly showcased his talents over the last handful of years, but I think he's actually taken it to a new level this season. He's performing in a couple of big championships here in North America, and he's regularly right there fighting it out with all of the factory guys. So a great talent, and great to see him getting these opportunities.
Raj Schwest completing another lap. That's all another Chevy Corvette. 14th fastest out of the group, but nipping at the heels of the cars ahead of him. Problems here. That's a puncture to the left rear for Jason Daskalos, CRP Racing. They've been looking for speed so far through testing and practice. Is that more than entry? A puncture? Yeah, I think it is at pit entry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the key's got to be careful and get this car back without damaging anything. You're not really allowed to work on the car in these quali sessions, so
That's a good qualifying result to get to fourth. They really have been scratching their heads.
Is that pit entry or not?
Well,
I'm not quite sure.
Maybe not.
Well, he's backing it up out of the way further, so I think he'd have been trying to drive forward towards his pit box if he was in pit lane. We'll try and take a look here.
I do think that car is shown as in sunset.
Shown in that last sector, yeah. Jeff Burton getting strapped in here. Of course, the key is here. Did they put some new Pirelli P0s on or keep those tires that got some temperature from Philip Ellis's run? Also gives them a bit more strategy and room to play with another set of tires for the races over the course of the weekend.
And that could be a big deal as well. This is what happened to Dascalos in that final sector.
Oh, there he is. Yes, so he's on the exit of 17, yeah.
Got to a safe place.
He may just get the okay to come across the racetrack. He obviously didn't want to do it while cars are out there, but once he gets note that the session is essentially done and the racetrack is cold, he could come across there. If it's just a tire, if it's just a flat tire, theoretically could just change that and put Isaac Sherman out for the second session.
They'll be hoping so. Good recovery for that team to be fourth in class. Here is a look at the results from qualifying one. 2 cars under the 2-minute mark. Philip Ellis, quickest overall, just ahead of Kenton Cook. Great lap there from Sedgwick to jump Stevens on that final flyer to get up to 3rd overall and 2nd in class, just ahead of that JMF Mercedes. DXDT flexing some muscle once again. This is where they debuted a year ago with their Pro-Am car. The Pro car came a month later and then rattled off all those wins. But they know this track. They've got race experience here in this championship. And as Calvin mentioned, a lot of the development work on this GT3 Corvette was done right here at Sebring. But maybe the performance of the session was Scott Dolehite right in the middle of this very competitive pack. And Mustang starting to flex a little bit of muscle. Chance to hear from the fastest man of the session, Philip Ellis, on overall pole, and he is with Amanda.
That's right, Ryan. Yeah, he's been on the overall Rova Pole Award for first races of the weekends, 3 weekends in a row. And Philip, we did talk about the tires. I see those are Philip's tires from qualifying. Why'd you guys elect to do that for Jeff today?
Just gives him a bit more drive time, like getting them, even though it's hot outside, it's not too easy to get them up to like the working window where we want to have them. And that literally gives Jeff like 2 or 3 more laps. It worked out in Sonoma great, so now we're hoping that he doesn't outlap and we get another red flag. But you just never know, and it's just easier for him as well, get into a good rhythm, and then see where we end up this afternoon.
The regulator strategy is working. You guys are 2nd in the points right now. However, in race number 1, the finishing results haven't been the best. How do you need it to go to your way as you're kicking off these races?
I think we just need to be a bit more consistent. We weren't super lucky in either of the 2 weekends so far, especially in race 1. Race 2, obviously, we were a little bit more lucky. But I think we can get podiums in the first race too. We just have to tick off all the boxes, have a clean pit stop, not get penalties, and hope for the others to make mistakes.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Philip Ellis at the height of his powers right now. He was testing at Spa last week in the prologue for the CrowdStrike 24, which is coming up next month. One of a number of North American competitors is part of that massive contingent. 76 injuries for this year's 101st anniversary running of the 24 Hours of Spa. Qualifying session number 1 is in the books. Kenton Cook came out early and set the early benchmark time for the Random Vandals team. Philip Ellis waited a little bit longer to get out on track, but it didn't take him long to get up to speed. Kai Stevens looked like he had a flying lap that had an issue in the final sector that might have prevented him from starting a little bit further up through the field. Scott Dolehite, an excellent effort to line up 8th overall for race 1 coming up this afternoon. But at the end of it, Philip Ellis with the bragging rights. He takes overall pole position once again. And just like that, we're already rolling 1 minute or thereabouts into the second qualifying session. Now it's a lot of those pros in the Pro-Am cars that have taken over the controls. This will set the grid for race 2 coming up tomorrow. First look here in GT World Challenge America competition of Stefano Gattuso, who was drafted in for Dollarhide Racing to bring some hands-on experience with that Ford Mustang GT3, part of the Proton lineup in the World Endurance Championship this year.
Yeah, I think Scott Dollarhide did an awesome job there in that qualifying session to grab the AM pole at a really respectable time. But, you know, and he's a fast little driver, but let's see what Stefano can do with the added experience that he has under his belt with this platform. So I'll be curious to see that. But I tell you what was ominous was the fact that Blake McDonald was so high up on the grid and only 8/10 off the fastest lap as the AM driver in that Pro-Am entry for DXDT. You got to feel that Matt Bell, if he can execute here, could be the favorite for the pole.
Definitely. We'll keep an eye on Matt. Yesterday, we had a statistical anomaly, I think you might say, where in GT World Challenge America, Matt Bell was the quickest overall. In the Pirelli GT4 America practice session, we had the other Matt Bell, the American Matt Bell, who was the fastest in class in that session. And then in Toyota GR Cup, Jackson Bell had the fastest time. So for a little while there, if your name was Bell, you probably were going pretty quick.
You were. It was a ding-dong battle in all of those sessions, it looked like.
You've been waiting all night and all morning.
Well, not all night, but
you
since
brought it
breakfast.
up at dinner, didn't you?
That's right, I did, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So then we were kind of waiting to see what Jason Bell could do. He's the co-driver.
He actually had a really,
He did.
it's one thing I was trying to get around to mentioning before we turn things around for this second session. Jason had a really solid run there in that first quali session. I think he'll be pleased with that with the Racer's Edge Aston Martin this morning.
Yeah, exactly right. Michael Cooper out in that car at the moment. That's a Floridian team, of course, Racer's Edge. This is a Canadian team. Had to come a long way to be here, but good to have that team back. Kyle Marcelli.
Yeah, and Kyle was actually fastest here on, what was it, Thursday practice. So good to see them back. And they had the big hit at Sonoma to start their season, which meant they didn't participate. That was in the qualifying session there. And you never know, is that going to be like, you know, an ominous sign that they don't want to compete full time, but they've come back, and JF Labage has said, no, we're in it for the long haul. So great to see that team return and have some really solid performance. They're still looking for the big result, of course, but there's certainly some potential with that group and that car to put in some strong runs here this year.
JF struggled a little bit in practice yesterday, but he'll have had some time to think about it and can bounce some ideas off of the experienced veteran Kyle Marcelli. As we check in here on Aaron Telitz. Great to see this beautiful McLaren 720S out on track. Talked to Aaron a little bit last night, and they're feeling like they could be in the mix.
Yeah, I think that we keep harping on about the Corvette and the pace of the Corvette. I think they feel they're as strong as anyone, bar the Corvette. So we'll wait and see here. This is go fast time, and this is the reality of who's got the pace here this weekend. Typically we'll see it in these qualifying sessions, but McLaren is working really well. He also talked about, though, that the tires are going to be a huge factor here in the long green flag runs potentially. With the heat, he said they really fall off after about 3 to 4. Oh, red flag.
It comes at an interesting time. And man, Telitz was so close to putting a lap in.
Wow.
But that gets wiped away, and everyone now will have to trundle back down to the pit lane. No times on the board yet. Nearly 5 minutes into the session, and not sure what the cause of the red flag is just yet. That'll have everyone scrambling then to reset their strategy for however much time is still remaining.
Yes, I think I did see the CRP Mercedes. I believe that's what I was looking at. They were up on the stands with some tires getting ready to be fitted. So hopefully they got Daskalos back in the pit lane. And
Gattuso is the cause of this red flag. That car seems to be at an awkward angle.
he'd run pretty respectable sector times before this
Yeah.
stoppage. So
Out of the car. Looks like maybe some problem on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it looks like the left rear may be down. Let's see if he hits something or he just comes to a halt.
Oh.
Wheel is off the race car. That would be why it's down on the left-hand side. So maybe some finger trouble when they put the tires on for this second session.
Yep. Definitely a possibility. Red flag to recover the car and, of course, the wheel. So it looks like after the great qualifying result for race number 1, that car is going to start at the back of the field in all likelihood for race 2. This is the CRP team. You're right. The car did make it back. The crew is having to make some repairs.
Yeah,
maybe they benefit a little bit from
Yeah.
this red flag.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do this, though, per the regulations. Yeah, I'm not sure you're allowed to work on a car in a qualifying session. Yes, you're trying to get it ready to basically start your qualifying run, but I believe, and I may be corrected on this, that once the clock starts, you're really not allowed to do any work other than change tires and stuff.
Same way, same way. Coming in, cross here,
Well,
down. Right there.
going to try their best to get this car in. Maybe we can get a little bit more on this story. Amanda Busick is standing by down in the pit lane, and she is caught up with Jason Daskalos.
Well, there was work going on here on the Mercedes. Standing by with Jason Daskalos. What happened, and can there be a benefit here with this red flag?
Well, Omar's telling me here that nobody got any time, so that might actually be a blessing. I dropped a wheel out of 16 and must have just caught the curb just right, and it punctured the rear driver's side, so I limped it back, and looks like the guys got it back together, so hopefully Isaac will be able to get some laps.
I am hearing engines fired down here, guys. I did hear one of the team members just yell 1 minute, so maybe that means we will get some more qualifying time here. Yes, that Mercedes got back here, and the team went right to work on it. Bearbon was flying from the pit box over the wall, so hopefully we can get a lap time for Isaac Sherman.
Yeah, let's hope. We need to make sure, though, that those repairs are permitted during this qualifying session. Calvin's getting to the bottom of that. If they are not, I probably want to hang on to a set of sticker tires and not burn through them here if you're just going to lose the time anyway. Tire wear, given the heat and then just the nature of this circuit, has been a talking point up and down the paddock here this weekend. Still under red flag conditions, though. As I say that, it immediately goes green. Funny how that works. 6.5 minutes. That's not much time to get up to speed and get going. It's over 2 minutes to get around, so they're going to have to get going and get going quickly. Not much time either to sort it out and make sure you have enough space to try and set the fast lap.
Yeah, because you never know. There could be another incident, and then it could be literally, did anyone get a time on the board? So if you're the first out, you got the first opportunity to crack the start-finish line before another red could bring a halt to the proceedings once again. So yeah, it's going to change the dynamic a little bit. Forget about cruising around, warm things up, get out there and get after it.
Here comes the car that was the pace setter at an earlier practice session. Matt Bell, the man who had the fastest lap of the weekend up through qualifying today.
When you have what is perceived as maybe the dominant car or the favorite car, you don't need curveballs like this. It's like having a car that's really fast in the dry and suddenly it starts to rain. You don't want anything that's out of the ordinary.
Interesting choice by DXDT to wait a little while to send the car. That guarantees he'll have unoccupied track to work with. Meanwhile, you have these three BMWs running line astern here. The two Random Vandals cars with the Turner BMW, Robbie Foley, hot on their heels. It's Connor DeFilippi in the leading, primarily green BMW, then Varun Choksi, and behind them, as mentioned, Robbie Foley for Turner.
Yeah, and just a note with Robbie Foley, you mentioned in the last round of the championship with his teammate Justin Rothberg being a derogated bronze, they're actually got a new rule in place where you can get almost a BOP adjustment with some weight, and they added 13 kilograms to that car for Circuit the Americas. And this weekend has gone up to 26 kilos, which is almost 60 pounds in weight. So they're trying to equalize Rothberg's talent and speed against the other AMs, but what it then does is put Robbie Foley out there against the top pros, other factory drivers, with a car that's got a handicap with the extra weight that he's carrying around.
Yeah, that was remarkable. We looked at those practice times yesterday and thought, whoa, that's a big lap. And for that BMW to be the fastest of the BMWs when it's carrying that extra ballast, that certainly speaks to that team's level of preparation as well as the driving that Robbie Foley is doing these days. Here we go. These are the first push laps, assuming we stay green. Again, the timing of that red flag means that with 3 minutes, 40 seconds on the clock, there are no times on timing and scoring right now. So we'll see what we can see here. Sector times, though, starting to pop in, and most of the cars are doing personal bests.
Yeah, and ironically, Gattuso's Mustang's at the side of the track right now. He held the purple first sector. Just been pipped up by like 7/10 with Connor on a bit of a fly here. So that was a really good precursor to what the speed may have been in that Ford Mustang for the Dollar Height Racing team. So they'll be disappointed. They'll try and rebound. Shouldn't be any real damage to that race car. It just came off. Looked like he pulled it off immediately, but could have been a much worse scenario if it happened like going through turn 17 or something.
Connor DeFilippi fastest in the pro class. Tom Sargent fastest right now in the Pro-Am field through the first sector. DeFilippi the first to trip the timing beacon there in sector 2. Using up all those curbs. That's something over the years the BMW seems to always excel at, whether it was the old M6 or this new M4, this Evo version of it as well. It can really eat up those curbs, and that opens up corners, gives you different avenues of approach, able to extract some speed where other brands sometimes can struggle.
Yeah, you're about 155 miles an hour here down into Sunset Bend. Big brake zone. And then right through that middle part is where it gets really wild, just trying to hang on to that race car. And it's a game of chicken all the way out to that wall on the exit, onto the front stretch. Foley dropped back a little bit as you watch him tails away. Tom Sargent coming on the front straightaway. Looks like he's got a bit of a flyer going.
Some good laps, though, coming in immediately. DeFilippi and Foley both under the 2-minute mark, separated by just 2 1/1000ths of a second for overall pole right now. Jan Halen just jumped up to third at a 2-minute.375. Then it's Sargent in another Porsche. Choxy in the BMW. Changed just a moment ago as Aaron Thielitz now jumps up to third overall and second in Pro-Am.
Yeah, and that practice speed that they had here yesterday showcasing itself for the McLaren and Aaron Thielitz here in this quali session as well. Here's Tom Sargent in the bright livery GMG Porsche. His teammate Carl Washington's been doing a really solid job this year, and they seem to be a factor every single weekend now for that Pro-Am win.
Definitely. They've taken a big step forward. Tom Sargent, another one of the GT World Challenge America drivers that was over in Belgium recently. He was announced as part of the Wright Motorsports entry for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa.
Really tight at the top. We've got 6 drivers just separated by half a second right now, and there's going to be some further flyers coming into play here. Foley has his personal best through the first sector. Then he goes purple in sector 2. This is a big lap here for the Turner Motorsports driver. Can he follow up on that Coda pole with another one here at Sebring? Team tested here for a couple of days. They feel they've got good race car here.
Matt Bell also putting in a good lap. He's already up to third, and he's gone faster here on this second flyer in sector 1. Foley, if he can hustle around, maybe he'd get another crack at this too. Not sure he's going to need it.
It's going to be tight to get to the line here, I think, in time.
Shaping up to be a strong lap here from Robbie Foley. 8 seconds on the clock. If he can trip the timing beacon before it goes to all zeros, he'll get another lap, and he will.
Wow, that was tight.
And he goes to the top by nearly half a second.
Wow, talk about perfect execution by the team. I mean, they dropped Foley back there to get out of the wake of those BMWs in front of him. He's laid down the pole, and he's got another last lap flyer in his hand if he needs it, or if he has anything left in the tires. Little drift there into Christensen corner, beautifully controlled.
Halen goes to third and sees the checkered flag. Sargent also has seen the checkered flag. He'll do no better than 6th. Thielitz no better than 5th in the McLaren. Matt Bell is on a flyer right now. He's in that third and final sector, currently shown as fourth, but keep an eye on that Corvette right now. Nearly 7/10 off overall pole, but he jumps up to second. Big lap there, as expected from DXDT.
Yeah, but Foley's got 3/10 on him, and checkered flags out for Matt Bell, so he's got nothing left to try and get around the BMW. Foley puts a lap together, not a brilliant first sector, so he may have peaked the tires just at the right point.
I think the only car out that might be on a flyer is Varun Choksi, down in 9th overall, 4th in the pro class. Foley appears to have given up some speed in Sector 1, and Connor DeFilippi also has rolled out of it. They're the only cars that have not seen the checkered flag, those 3 BMWs. As it stands, it would be a Turner pole by over 3/10 of a second.
That is a monster lap.
They have been showing their strength all weekend long. This is Choksi, who appeared to be pushing through the first sector, but is backed out of it now. Yeah, he's about 5 seconds off the pace in Sector 2. So it looks like this is how they will line up for the second race of the weekend. Foley and Bell sharing the front row. Then 3 straight pro class cars with DeFilippi, Halen, and Grenier. Look how close, especially Halen and Grenier are, just 15 thousandths of a second between them. Then Thielitz, Sargent, Povolato, Choksi, and Marcelli, the top 10. It does not look like we'll see a lap time from the Mustang, of course, because they brought out that red flag, and they would have lost their fastest times in the session anyway, so they'll start out at the back. Isaac Sherman did get out for CRP and set some lap times good enough for 12th fastest.
Yeah, but you can see how competitive this field is when you see someone like Darren Turner, Aston Martin factory driver, down there in P13. That just showcases how tough this championship is right now.
Yeah, former 12 Hour of Sebring winner. He's had podiums in the vast majority of his starts here at Sebring over the years. Hasn't been here in quite a while. But that team, that car, still looking for a little bit of pace, it would appear, down in 13th, like you say, in 2 seconds off of the overall pole.
Just a clarification on the CRP situation where we saw the car have the tire issue for Jason Daskalos. Then they worked on the car. It's Jason's times that get erased, and times moving forward are good to go. So we just got further clarification and confirmation from the race stewards room on that.
Well, that wipes out a really good qualifying effort from Daskalos, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does. Probably would have preferred it to be the other way around.
Well, maybe you're better off not working on the car, just starting at the back in race 2, because they were, I think, 4th in class.
Great point.
In qualifying, and you know, maybe you just take your medicine in race 2. That's not what they elected to do. So anyway, we'll have to think about that moving forward. In the meantime, Robbie Foley is driving his pole-sitting car to tech, which gives Amanda a chance to check in with his co-driver.
Hey guys, yeah, I popped over earlier when you were talking about what the BMW was capable and laughed at the team and asked if they were sandbagging practice here this weekend. It was a good laugh, and now Justin gets to see his co-driver head over to Parc Fermé as the Rovo pole position winner. How good is this BMW here at Sebring?
This morning was the fastest I've ever gone here, and I thought it'd be quicker in GT America since the track was better, but this car was absolutely set up perfectly. Robbie got a beautiful lap, and he was saying earlier he thinks the quickest someone's going to do here is 59.4, and then that's what he went out and did. So really happy with that. The teams gave us a great car all weekend. We've been playing with a ton of different things, and finally it worked out.
You're fighting something this weekend. What's that?
What was the question?
Said you're fighting something this weekend. What's that?
Oh, a little cold, but we're all good. No excuses. You can probably hear it in my voice, but all good.
Nothing like a race car to make a cold disappear real quick, guys.
Definitely. Big thumbs up from Will Turner there in the background. And Justin Rothberg also looking calm and confident ahead of a pair of races here this weekend. Results from qualifying number 2, Rothberg and Foley. How about that? Calling his shot, Robbie Foley, saying 59.4 is the number you got to hit, and he goes out and hits it.
Yeah, it's like Scotty Scheffler telling you how far he's going to hit his 9-iron.
Big effort from the Turner team. As expected, Blake McDonald, Matt Bell. Blake was really quick in that first qualifying session. Bell backs it up a little ways off the Turner BMW, but in that Pro-Am fight, don't sleep on DXDT Racing, and then super tight as well with the top 3 in Pro. They'll line up 3rd, 4th, and 5th overall for this race coming up tomorrow, tomorrow afternoon, race number 2. That looks like it should be a compelling battle between those 3 teams.
I think the pace that Blake McDonald has shown here this weekend, he could be the differentiator here in these Pro-Am lineups.
Certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Well, look at a quiet pit lane, but it's about to get busy here this weekend. So much activity on these SRO America weekends. A look at the second qualifying session highlights. Everyone went out early, taking their time, building up to speed, but it became a thrash after the left rear wheel escaped the Mustang of Stefano Gattuso. Red flag came out. Everyone came to the pit lane, and that left them with less than 5 minutes to go and set a representative lap time. The BMWs ran in a train at the very front of the pack, and it was a BMW show. Ultimately, Turner Motorsport with the bragging rights, courtesy of Robbie Foley. Matt Bell took a run at him late in the going for DXDT, but came up 0.3 of a second short. Robbie Foley told his teammate he needed to get to a 1:59.4 to get to the pole, and that's exactly what he did. Turner will lead the field to green in race 2.